Scotty Milne. He's here with us on Air Sports News. I've been trying to get you for a few weeks now. How are you, my friend?
I'm very well indeed. I'm really enjoying the lockdown in Scotland. It's great to be stuck in the Highlands. I'm up on the hills every day and we're doing good.
So whereabouts are you in Scotland?
I'm right in the middle, near Perth.
Yeah.
We're at the base of the Highlands. So right in front of my house, we have one of the biggest lochs in Scotland, 7.5 miles long, 1.5 miles wide, 330 feet deep. At the back of the house, we've got the start of the Cairngorms, covered in snow right now.
Absolutely gorgeous. Let's tell people who you are and what you do. One of the most well-known skydiving instructors that I'm aware of, certainly in the UK. You've been active for so long in the sport. In fact, Active Skydiving is your website, isn't it?
Yeah. It's Regan, it's great to have known you for all these years and the time that we've spent together. I have really enjoyed that. So let me say, I'm Scott. Well,
I think it's nearly 30 years.
I started jumping in. I did my first jump the same day I landed on the moon. Remember that story?
I remember you telling me that. 1969, 21st of July. Yes.
20th of July 1969. So while everyone else wanted to hear about his giant leap for mankind, nobody wanted to hear about mine. So I've never forgiven that guy for stealing my thunder.
Where was that?
I was a young soldier.
Where was it? Where was your jump, your first one?
It was at Netherhaven.
Right.
So I was a young soldier in training.
Yeah.
It was the most fantastic thing that I've ever done. It's all I ever wanted to do since I was a little boy. So once I started, I just got stuck into it and tried the best that I could. 1972, I was sent on tryouts for the Red Devils.
Yeah. And
managed to get onto the team. I had the good fortune to go straight onto the competition team. So from 1972 to 1982, I was an international competitor.
Yeah.
Won about 200 medals and trophies. First British man ever to win an individual medal at the World Championships. And the two British men who have won individual medals since were both AFF students of mine. So I'm just delighted with that. Once I finished competing, I got into, I wanted to be the best instructor that I could be.
Right.
So I was the chief instructor for many years. And then AFF came around and I thought that is just what I've been looking for all these years. So when I came out of the army in 1992, I started my own AFF school, Active Skydiving. And in 1992, AFF was on the periphery. It wasn't the main event. Nowadays, everyone's trained by AFF, but it wasn't back then, you will remember. And since then, my specialist job is taking groups abroad every month to a sunshine location so that they get all their course, all their consoles, and come home with their A license. That's my aim.
Yeah. So many people that I know that I've jumped with, that I still jump with now, have been trained by you. Matt Fogarty springs to mind. I was chatting with Matt the other day. But Scotty, what's happening now? Normally every month you're away somewhere. With COVID-19, has that completely stopped you? Or have you had some trips?
Yeah, completely stopped. No. So flights are all blocked out of UK, most of them. Most of the drop zones that we use are closed down. We're trying to take the sensible option and minimise travel, minimise contact with people. We don't want to cause this pandemic to go on any longer than it has to be. But as soon as it stops, we're ready to rock and roll. We've got loads of people waiting to go, and my wee boy's dead keen to help me, and that's great.
Yes. Yeah, your son Ali. In fact, we were joking the other day because Ali's well known and he's a good friend as well. Who was going to be the first on Air Sports News? Was it going to be you or was it going to be him? But we've gone with you first. But have you any idea how many people you've trained? I mean, have you got a idea?
I wish I'd counted. I mean, it's thousands, but beyond that, I really don't know. But it's a great feeling. And I get feedback from people from 20 years later saying, I've just looked through my video or my DVD or something else. And I remember what a great time we had. And thanks for looking after us. And I think that's wonderful. And the great thing, it's still as big a thrill for me to see people succeed as it ever was. I get a bigger thrill out of teaching AFF than I did out of any of the medals or trophies that I ever won.
Really? Yeah. And do you find, I mean, there's so many different types of student. There's those people that just breeze straight through it, no problem at all. There's the people that get stuck on certain levels. I would imagine you get more satisfaction out of getting somebody through it who's had problems through it. I think you would.
Well, I often
get more from that.
Yeah, I often get sent students that other people's have some difficulty with, and that's great. And 90% of this course is in your head.
Yeah.
So if I can calm people down and talk to them and be the smiley, relaxed guy and get them to perform to the best that they can do, anyone can do this.
Yeah.
If we combine that with wind tunnel training, because the wind tunnel is the most perfect training aid for skydiving, and that's why we have such a success rate. I try and get them all to go to the wind tunnel with Ali before we come out. And then if they do that, it's easy. Sometimes they have difficulty and have to go away into the wind tunnel and come back again. That's cool. We cater for people and we try to make the best of whatever we can with them. And of course, nowadays in the sport, there are so many avenues that they can go forward on. And that's one of the great things about the sport. It's opening up all the time. It's not the same as it was when we were young lads. And that's why the sport is exploding and getting better and better. But I find that if we give them the best foundation and safety, the best way to make an appreciation of the situation, teach them the best way to look after themselves, their equipment, to be safe in the aircraft, to be safe in free fall, under the canopy, it doesn't matter what avenue they choose to take, they're going to do the best they can at it. Great thing for me is people keep coming back saying, as soon as I turned up at the drop zone and saw my logbook and saw your name and said, shut the logbook and said, that's fine, carry on, son.
You don't only have your AFF courses though. You're quite different with a lot of other instructors in so much like if you're running an AFF course somewhere, not only have you got your people who are on the course, you've got people returning who did a course the year before, somebody who did a course 3 years ago. You've always got a big entourage of people with you.
Great thing, isn't it? It's a great gang, and you've seen it when we go out for dinner at night, and the encouragement that those guys and girls can give to the new people is worth its weight in gold. When they're sitting at night and they're worried and frightened and they've had a glass of wine and a nice meal, and someone says, I was in your seat 3 months ago or last year, and this is how I got over it, and listen to what Scotty's saying and try a bit of this, and that's why we succeed so well. And the great thing is people keep wanting to come back.
Yeah. I started in 1990, like you say, AFF was only I wasn't even aware of it when I started. So you did your first jump in 1969, and you've been aware of parachuting and skydiving all your life. But that must have been right at the very beginning. What was your first experience? What was it, your first consciousness of knowing about jumping out of planes?
Well, we'd gone to an air show as kids at home, and this would have been the early 60s. And there was what must have been one of the first parachute displays, and it was so basic, but fantastic, because we'd never seen anything like it. We didn't know any better. And we saw these ones or twos getting out, and they were on round canopies, didn't even have paracommanders in those days. It was just cheapos. And they landed all over this huge airfield. But we thought that was just fantastic. And of course, I was already reading all the comic books about World War II paratroopers. I didn't know anything about skydiving. And that was my aim when I got going. I just wanted to jump out of airplanes. Then when I realized that you could skydive, and my goodness, I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. And you figure now, everybody's jumping from 12,000 feet. That was an absolute rarity to us. The maximum altitude we used to get in the early 70s was 8,000 feet. We had a biplane and repeat, took 8 people, took all day to get there. And we still thought that was fantastic. And it's great to see nowadays with turbine aircraft and what people can do. And I love it.
Being part of the Red Devils, I mean, for me as a young boy, growing up in Manchester, very much into aviation and anything that flew, Red Devils were like the rock stars. You know, whenever you saw them on TV, Blue Peter or any other TV program with the Red Devils on, it was like these heroes of the skies. To be part of that must have been like being in the Beatles or something.
It really was. And as a young soldier looking at the team, you know, I stand there with my mouth open all the time. And so to get on the team, oh my goodness, that was just the biggest thrill of my life. In fact, interestingly, years later, when I went back to my unit, I had to do a refresher training course at Bryce Norton.
Right.
So I went down there to do the static line course again, and I walk into the hangar, and there's a recruit platoon there, and they've been told a guy from the Red Devils who's got 1,000 jumps is coming to join your course. Well, when I walked in there was stunned silence and all these young lads staring at me. It was the most wonderful feeling. But to sit them down and speak to them and explain what was going to happen in the future and to be with them, that's an area I've always enjoyed, helping out people.
And still going strong today, the Red Devils, still part of the circuit, still out there displaying.
The Red Devils are part of the army, they're part of the parachute regiment. And in my day, we had the competition team and 2 display teams. Right. So most of my time was on the competition team. Then on bank holiday weekends and really busy days, we all got pulled in and went round the country. Manchester was one of my favourite areas to go up there. Altrincham we used to stay.
Really?
Great memories of good times up there.
When you were then on displays, because I'm not quite familiar how it would work, would it be a few a day, 1 a day, 4 a day? How many displays would it be?
Up to 5 a day.
5 a day?
Up to 5 a day.
Wow.
Yeah. On the busy days, I mean, it was flat out because they would all be in the afternoon. So you'd start in the early afternoon, and you would often be based at Manchester, for example, and get whisked back to Ringwood Airport, get on the Islander, straight away to the next display, land, pack, back to Ringwood on the aeroplane, and fly back and forth. It was busy time.
Yes, I never really thought about it.
I prefer the quiet times when we did the 1 or 2 displays, where you did the Vicar's tea party or something like that, because you got looked after better. You had time to sit there and enjoy it and speak to people. And
yeah, those busy days, it would be land, hike in a way you wouldn't really have much time to be with people, would you?
Not a lot of time.
And you spent a lot of time abroad, working abroad, jumping abroad. Tell me about some of the places where you've been with your career.
Okay. I trained the original Dubai team with Pete Sherman, who was already out there.
Yeah.
And Pete had set that up in the mid-70s. And I went out with the Army team in 1978 for the first time, and started helping training his guys. They liked it.
Mohammed Yusuf?
Yeah, Mohammed Yusuf. He was a young Lance Corporal at the time.
Wow.
Retired with the full colonel. I think that's a great story. So they invited me back every year. So for the next 5 years, I went out there for 3 or 4 months every year. I loved working in the Middle East. I loved working with the Arab boys. I've done a lot of work in Kenya, in Belize. We trained the locals there. In fact, wherever we've gone, I've set up a program and run it both for our guys and for the locals. And it spreads a lot of goodwill and puts a lot of smiley faces, and that's what life's all about.
And before Skydive Dubai got going, that's 2010 when we had the first championships out there. For the 5 or 6 years before that, you were going there to Al Quain, taking AFF students, weren't you?
That's right. Pete Marsden had the contact with big Russian aircraft, the Russian Hercules, that were on United Nations duties in Africa. And the aircraft went to Abu Dhabi every January for annual servicing. And then we'd fly about 70 people out there. There were 70 Brits and about 70 Germans, if you remember. And we'd get 10 days, 2 weeks of jumping out these aircraft. They were absolutely fantastic. And they were lovely weeks. I loved those trips. It's just a pity they don't go on anymore. Yeah. The other one I loved was Karlovy Vary. You remember those trips? They were just...
I think that's where we met, Scotty. I think we met there.
Yeah. Oh, I just loved those trips. Did that every year for years. And...
really was a beautiful place. That's now not available as a parachute centre, is it? I think it's
No, it's closed down now. Like many airfields, they've expanded. There's more flights. So the first thing that got pushed out was the Aero Club and the Parachute Club. So that's a pity.
And what are you doing with your time there? I know you're a very keen gardener. You grow a lot of quite amazing produce for the village. What else do you do?
Well, fishing, shooting, hunting. I'm on the hills every day. Important to keep fit and keep athletic. We're in a lockdown now, but I can get up on the hills every day and never see another soul. I see about 200 red stags. We're absolutely surrounded by the most wonderful wildlife here. So that's what I'm busy doing every day. In the first lockdown, there was 17 weeks I never left the village, and we were quite happy. It is such a wonderful place to live here. My vegetable garden has never had so much attention. I mean, I'm growing stuff that is just terrific, and it's a big laugh in the village. And now life is good.
It's been many years and I can appreciate being on the road a lot. I mean, I'm familiar with that and how it is. And it's been an unusual time these last 12 months to have this time just to actually slow down and stop a little bit and to appreciate whole life. We wouldn't have had that without this. We wouldn't have had that opportunity. It must be quite interesting for you.
Well, I've been married for 37 years. We've never spent this long together. My wife and I were looking at each other and I wonder how this is going to work. And it's worked perfectly. And that's a great thing because at this age and stage, it's about time it should be working. And we've had a lovely time together and really enjoying it. So that argues well for the future.
Good. Me and Lise, before this lockdown, we'd spent 3 weeks together maximum, 3 weeks. And so suddenly now we've been together 10 months. 10 months in this apartment and nobody's been stabbed yet, so it's quite good.
The one thing my wife has missed is at the end of every trip, she's been flying out to Spain or Portugal for 4 or 5 days in a nice hotel. And she's really missed that this year, but that'll come back again. We're looking forward to getting going again.
So for anybody outside of skydiving, all the different air sports, look at this. Let's talk a little bit about AFF, Accelerated Freefall, a program for taking somebody off the street to making them a skydiver that can jump out of a plane, be in control, know what altitude they're at, open a parachute, deal with it if there's a malfunction, and land safely. That's basically what the program is. Where is the area in it, would you say, that people tend to get stuck? Is it one particular place or is it different places?
Well, different people have different problems, but the key jump, undoubtedly on the AFF program, is level 4.
Right.
It's the first jump with one instructor, and it's the introduction to turns. And this is where the wind tunnel is beneficial beyond words. And equally, this is where we can get them to keep calm. So a big smiley face at every stage, loads of relaxed signals, loads of smiling, and to say to people, if something happens that you're not happy with, don't tense up. It's the tensing up that causes the problem. Yeah. Take a deep breath, relax, think about what I've taught you. If there's any problem, we'll stop it. And the judgment call is knowing how far to allow people to go. Those with a very nervous disposition, if they turn past the heading and you can see immediately that they're frightened in the face, because it's in the eyes that you have the key. Right. So if you see that sign, just stop them, big smile, relax signal, check the altimeter, let them go, give them another chance. And if they're a confident person, and something goes wrong, you can leave them and you watch them, and as long as they're working and doing the right things, because that's how you learn. You learn more if it hasn't gone perfectly than if everything does go perfectly.
Yeah. And it's not just turn up in the morning into the plane and off you go. There's a full ground school, a full day of theory.
We take the whole day over ground school. And we start every morning with a 30-minute, 45-minute refresher training session. We go through everything, all the emergency procedures so that they're sharp. Anything that happens, they're going to be ready for it. Then we go ahead, discuss points for learning from the previous day. We put them into practice and then combine that with the briefing for this day. Then we practice on the ground, on the creeper, in the harness, get them ready, go and rock and roll. That's why we have the highest success rate. We also insist on filming everything because a picture paints 1,000 words. And it's sometimes very difficult to explain to a student exactly what they've done. But if you can show them on a large screen and freeze frame and slow motion and show it again and again and again so that they get the mental picture of exactly what's going on, that's how we progress.
And when you book a course with you, how long are people there for? How many days is it not?
I ask for 10 days.
Right.
I find 10 days is the perfect time because my aim, as I said earlier, is to complete all the consolidation jumps so that they come home with an A license.
Yeah.
And no matter what time of year it is, I count on losing a couple of days a week with poor weather. If we don't, I mean, we've had occasions where people come back with 40 or 50 jumps, particularly on the California trips.
Right.
It's quite common in our Spain trips for people to come home with 25 jumps. And really, if you've done well for 25 jumps, you're going to do well for the rest. Yeah. So I refuse to train people in the UK, except for perhaps July and August, because of the inconsistency with the weather. I used to be asked to go to drop zones to help out with people, and you find someone who hasn't jumped for 6 weeks and who did a bad jump on the last one. Well, Accelerated Freefall is designed to be completed in a week. If it's taken 6 months, it's not accelerated.
No, you're not learning. You're not only teaching first timers, you actually teach the teachers. You train the coaches as well.
Yeah, I really enjoy working with pre-instructors course guys. And some of them asked me to do it over weekends in UK. And I said, no, because your brain is involved with the club. And your phone calls for doing this and doing that. I need to take you away. And I try and do a 7-day program where we run through all the teaching practices, all the jumps. And we don't go into the most difficult jumps straight away because we're teaching them. And I see so many people go straight into the most difficult routine. Anyone can lose anyone else. We know we can do that. The aim of the game is to teach them to anticipate what's going wrong and put in their mind how to deal with it. And the difference in those videos from day one jumping to the last day is quite incredible. The end of the first 2 days, you sometimes see them sitting in the corner of the hangar with their head in their hands. Like, oh my goodness, what am I doing here? Right. And then it all starts to click into place and they start clicking. The brain's thinking ahead once they've seen the problems once or twice, because I make the same jump twice. So they not only see it go wrong, but they see how to get it right.
Or you put the same problem in it. You do the same problem twice. You put the same problem in there twice, right?
Yeah. And I've seen some of the other guys in UK who are running very, very good pre-instructors courses, and I love to watch anyone do it well.
Yeah.
I'm not selfish. I don't want everyone to come to me, and I'm not trying to make everyone another Scotty Milne. What I'm trying to do is make the best of their abilities and show them how to maximize the opportunities.
And over your years, the places you've been, the things you've done, the people you've met, far too many to go into, but can you think of a time when you've been in a situation in the sport where you've thought, I can't believe I'm here doing this. I don't know how I got here to be in this situation.
I was in a Twin Otter some years ago, and with the AFF students at the back of the plane, and there was a lot of talking going on down the front and people looking up at me, and I was a bit busy with the students. I wasn't paying attention, and eventually someone shouted, "How many people on here did you not train?" We looked around the aircraft, and of the 23, there was only 3 people that I hadn't trained. And I thought that was fantastic. Yeah. And another big thrill for me is, as an examiner, running the instructor's course for someone that I trained. That's a big thrill.
Yes.
In fact, everything to do with the sport. You know, the people we meet, look at the groups that we've worked with, you and I, over the years, and the times in the evening where you sit back and watch them relaying their experiences of the day, and that's what we're here for. Yeah. We're here to give them the best opportunity to bring people into the sport so they can really enjoy it as we do.
I think maybe the first time I jumped on an AFF as your secondary, I think I was probably more nervous than the student.
I remember when I did my first working jump with my son Ali.
Yeah.
At Langer, When he landed, the guys ran up to him and said, "Were you nervous working with your dad?" And he said, "No, why?" Because everyone else is. That's lovely.
Yeah.
And I love working with Ali. That's great. And he wants to do more and more with me. And I really enjoy that time.
And he's just a machine, isn't he? He just never stops. He's bang, 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 go, go, go. Really, really talented young individual.
Yeah. Grown up to be a fine young man. I'm very, very proud of it. I have a daughter that I'm equally proud of. And,
Yes.
it's just a thrill to have the two of them.
And you always say that as well. That whenever that comes up in conversation about Ali, you always mention your daughter, which is such a lovely thing to do. It's not an afterthought. You always make sure you do
Both wonderful. Yeah.
So this year, what's going to happen? Scotty, when are we going to be back in the skies? I don't know, do you?
Well, we were hoping for March, but it's certainly not looking like it. I mean, we're coming to what we hope is the peak of the epidemic here. And now with the widespread vaccination program as it takes off, we're really hoping that makes the difference. But the secret is to get it right. It's just like skydiving. We don't want to go in the wrong conditions. We don't want to get it wrong. We don't want to make this thing worse. So we'll be sensible and we'll wait till it's right. And when it's right, we'll go and do it.
I think that's one thing that's cropped up a lot in these conversations. Anybody from aviation like ourselves, we're used to situations that change. We're used to things doing a 180 on us. We just wait it out. And I think we're probably more well adapted to cope with this situation than many other people who are not in an environment like we are.
Yeah, you got to remember, we've been around a long time. There are old jumpers and there are bold jumpers, but there are no old, bold jumpers. Yeah. We make sensible decisions. Yeah. And when it's not right, we don't do it.
Yeah, we're right indeed. So your places now of operation that you would normally go, if somebody went on your website now to book an AFF course, where would be the normal places of operation? Seville in Spain, of course?
Yeah. Most of my gear is down in Seville now.
Yeah.
And they are a terrific centre. And they have very professional instructors and they're guys that I really like working with. We always take our own instructors. I mean, once I've finished the instructors courses, many of the young guys ask if they can come with me and see how it's done for real. And I'm delighted to host them. And that's just another stage of helping people to get into it and show them. So that happens a lot with us. But yeah, like I say, all my gear's down in Seville. And that's where we're going to go back to. It's a lovely, huge landing area. Many good drop zones around though, and many good instructors, but that's where I feel very comfortable. What
I like about the place is, once it starts, it's like you pull the pin on the thing and woof, it just goes and keeps going. And if you want to do 150 jumps a day, you can do 150 jumps a day.
Yeah. They're really good, and they cater for what we want to do.
Yeah.
They never push us. I'm usually first to stop my students if the wind gets strong or the thermally conditions or anything of that nature. So we're all looking around intelligently at each other. Nothing silly happens, nothing dangerous happens. Everyone helps everyone else out. Loads of encouragement, very positive attitude. That's what we're looking for, not a them and us attitude. We're in this game together. We're here to help each other.
Yeah. And just finally, before we go, about the Red Devils bit again, because it's fascinating to me. You're jumping in front of royalty and some real high profile events. Tell me about one or two of them, especially I've seen a great photograph you there with Prince Charles and all lined up. Tell me about a few of those moments.
Well, I jumped so often in front of the Queen that we did a display in the centre of London at Greenwich Staff College, which is on the Thames, and we had 25 Red Devils in a Chinook. And I was the jump master. And we flew in, we could only get 4,000 feet because of Heathrow. And I said, I'll go a little bit low. And this was in the earlier days of square canopies. So I went a little bit low, through the pilot chute, streaming malfunction. And at that time, we had round reserves.
Right.
And I'm over the Thames, and I thought, I ain't cutting away here. I'm going to stick with this. But eventually I thought, I need to get rid of it. So I got rid of it, put the main up, the reserve up. There was nowhere to go than this football-sized area by the Thames at Greenwich Staff College. So I thought, I'll stay in the water because I can swim. But then it was a perfect evening. And I thought, I reckon I can sneak into the edge. And I landed about 10 feet from the Queen and stood up on this round reserve. And when I looked up, she was clapping like this. When we did the lineup and the Queen came round, she said, I thought it was you. And previously, Her Majesty had said to me, oh, you again, because, I bumped into them so often. They were just a delight. They were absolute delight.
Fantastic.
Prince Charles is our Colonel-in-Chief in the Parachute Regiment, so he came round all the time. He was a regular with us, and terrific guy, absolutely wonderful guy. Being on the Red Devils, I'm telling you, that I did 2 tours. That was the thrill of my life. That was just going around the world, representing people, doing the best that you can, was just wonderful.
A bunch of lads and girls. How old were you all then? Was that like in your early 20s or how old were you?
Yeah, I was 22 when I first went.
22.
And I did 3 years on the team. Then I went back to my regiment, did the soldiering bit, and then I went back to the team for another 2 years. That was my second tour. And then I went back to my regiment, and then I finished up as the senior chief instructor in the British Army when I left the army. So my last 2 years, I wrote the manual for square parachutes for students, and I set up the AFF school. And at that stage, because it was so early, there was a lot of AFF that I could see we could develop to bring it forward and change things. And I was doing a lot of that. And that's a real thrill. So I'm delighted to have been involved in all of that.
It's funny when the AFF came to you guys, because it's not like you could watch it on YouTube or, watch a video. How did the information get passed along? How did you start jumping with AFF?
Well, I was training in Rayford.
Yeah, North Carolina.
The literacy team. And one of the guys who'd been on the US team a few years earlier, Al King, who's now one of the USPA director, came past and he said, I've just been involved in this fantastic program. And he started talking about AFF. And I was really busy, so I heard it, but it didn't register in my brain. And I was very busy career-wise at the time. I was a jungle instructor, so I was away in the trees a lot. And but when I got the opportunity and I saw what was happening, and of course, there were no small video cameras then, so most people didn't get filmed. And those who did had to have a separate cameraman. And when I started my AFF school, I recognized straight away that every jump had to be filmed. So we paid for a cameraman to come with us in the early stages. And then we developed the smaller cameras, and when the Sony mini cams came around that we put on our helmets, that just made life so easy. And look at GoPros now, that type of camera and the quality. So to give people that film and to give them loads of stills so they can go with, I don't advertise. All my advertising is from my students. Each student brings 2 other people, so my program just gets bigger and bigger, and that's got to be a good thing.
And you've got plenty in the books, ready and waiting to go?
Yeah, I've got loads waiting to go. It's, they're chomping at the bit. I'm just hoping that they'll hang on until we get it right.
Good stuff. Well, it's been great to catch up with you, Scotty. As always a pleasure. It would be even better if we were having a pint at the same time. But
really well. Regan, it's a pleasure to speak to you, my friend.
One day.
I wish you the very best.
And you, and all the best to your family too.
Sending the best to you from Scotland.
Take care, my friend.
Bye. Bye-bye.